Hey everyone! If you're watching this, you've probably seen my other videos about AI Breaking Bad, and you want to make your own AI livestream. I made a video explaining some of my code last year, but I kind of forgot to make a part 2, so I guess this is how I'm making it up to everyone. I updated the entire project a while ago and released it on GitHub for free, but I realized that there's some really confusing stuff in there and decided to make a video going over how it works and how to modify it. I built Infinistream, that's the name of the project by the way, to be as versatile as possible. You can add pretty much any character or voice that you want, and swapping Breaking Bad out for another show is as easy as typing it into the config file. It can even bring in characters you don't have 3D models for and color them in automatically. This video might be extremely long and extremely rambly, but by the end of it, you'll know everything you need to know about running an AI livestream. Well, most of it. So if any of that interests you at all, without further ado, class is in session. Also, if you use any of my code in your livestream, please link the GitHub page somewhere. Thanks. In case you didn't see my old video, or it's just been a while, Infinistream has all the standard stuff you see in any AI livestream, plus some really unique features no one else has. It generates scenes for any show that you want, plays topics that the audience suggests, well, if you want it to, and it has toggleable subtitles and scene summaries. If you don't want to generate new scenes 24/7, you can set it to rerun old ones and generate only at specific times of the day. Also, there's a built-in narrator and laugh track. But I mean, it's 2025, you're gonna need more than that to stand out. To keep the stream fresh, even to longtime viewers, Infinistream will inject random events that I call modifiers into the prompt. These can be anything from making the scene unintentionally funny, making everyone speak like pirates, or even making all the characters realize they're in a simulation and trying to escape. Your chat will love that last one. All the modifiers have random chances of happening with different rarities, and it takes less than 5 seconds to add or remove them. If the script it generates has characters it can't find a 3D model for, it'll take a blank one, color it in with ChatGPT, and add it to the scene no problem. That's how you can get Harry Potter, the Avengers, or even real-life people that you know to show up in AI Breaking Bad. I have no guarantee that the colors will be accurate at all, but it is really funny. Oh, and did I mention that it can remember the last few scenes and build entire story arcs spanning several hours? Mix all of that together, and you get Walt, Jesse, Tony Soprano, and Goku going on a globe-spanning quest for their Dragon Balls, and eventually traveling back in time to meet Darth Vader and Quentin Tarantino. It gets completely insane, but I love it. Infinistream is actually 2 programs running at once, a Python program to generate the script and the audio, and a Unity project to play it back and add visuals. The 2 programs communicate to each other through text files, which I know will piss off a lot of CS people in the comments, but it's really just like Python being like, hey, the audio's done, and Unity's being like, hey, I need you to make a new scene for me. So it's really just tiny amounts of data being transferred every minute and a half or so. A lot of people don't know this, but almost every AI livestream is completely audio dependent. They generate a script with ChatGPT, turn it into dialogue, and use that to decide everything else on the screen with a little bit of randomness thrown in. Infinistream's logic for visuals is super simple. It reads the script to figure out which characters to spawn in, plays speak animations for them when it's their turn to talk, and randomly decides which camera angles to use. I wanted the characters to be as janky as possible when they're not speaking. I kind of thought it was funny. So all they do is just walk to random points around this area and occasionally turn towards the active speaker. Also, I know you could technically use a camera overlay for the subtitles and stuff, but it's funnier to see them shift around and clip through everything. Unity has a script called sceneplayer.cs that plays all the MP3s in a folder called MP3 files, obviously. When the scene plays back, Python is already generating all the new MP3 files for the next scene in a folder that I creatively named New MP3s. It also puts them into an archive folder for reruns. The MP3s have the name of the speaker on them so Unity knows who's talking, and a number in front to make sure they play in numerical order every single time.
Int, Jess's apartment, living room, night. Jess paces back and forth in his apartment, clutching the bag of blue meth tightly.
Hello.
When Scene Player plays all the MP3s in the folder, it knows the scene is finished. When that happens, Infinistream swaps the folders out, starts the next scene, and starts generating a new one. Since I'm playing and making scenes at the same time, there usually aren't any really long waits between the action, unless the text-to-speech service is really slow. To save money, you're probably going to want to generate new scenes only at specific times of the day when people are watching. You can change that and most of the other stuff in a file called config.json. If it's not set to generate new scenes, it'll pull from the archive folder I mentioned earlier. Usually I have the archive set to only save 100 scenes, but you can save as many or as few as you want. This part is pretty simple. Python generates the script depending on what you put in the config and does a couple checks to make sure it's long enough, is formatted correctly, and has at least one character from the show. You can say which characters you want here and put common nicknames for them so the program doesn't reject a script or it calls Walter Walt or something dumb like that. Just make sure that this is lowercase and this is uppercase. Set remember previous scripts to false if you don't want it to generate story arcs, but it's way more entertaining if you keep it at true. Same with the laugh track. Set enable laugh track to true if you want it, and adjust the laugh track percentage to change how often it generates a scene with one. I already talked about the mood modifiers, but if you want to change or remove them, they're in descriptors.json. I have a pretty big selection picked out, but I'm sure your viewers will have a lot of ideas. Speaking of that, q.json is where you put all the chat suggested topics. I didn't put code for it in the GitHub repo, but all you need is a Discord or Twitch bot that appends something like this to the list. Let me know on Discord if you need help. Obviously, we can't send the entire script to be turned into speech. We need to get rid of lines like fade in or cut to, we need to know who's speaking, and we need to get rid of tone indicators.
Sarcastically, I'm in charge.
If you have the narrator enabled, it'll send description lines to them, which will help the audience understand what's going on. Once all that stuff is done, you can either use Google Cloud TTS or FakeU for the voices by changing the voice source in config.json. Google Cloud is way faster and more reliable than FakeU right now, so I recommend using that. Also, FakeU is too slow for real-time streaming right now, even with asynchronous generation, so just use Google. For Google, paste your credentials into googlecredentials.json. Message me on Discord if you need help getting it. I know it's kind of tricky. And for FakeU, put your username and password here in the config. I know this is really bad coding practice to have all your API keys and a password in one JSON file, but I mean, if you're the only person working on a stream, who cares, right? If you need extra security or there's multiple people working on it, just store the keys as environment variables and modify the code. Anyway, once all of that is done, just copy the IDs of the voices just like the sample ones, and have 3 or 4 funny voices in the random list right under it. These will be assigned to all the random characters that you don't have 3D models for. There are a ton of really good tutorials on making and rigging characters you can watch, but I kinda suck at making characters, so I made a bunch of crappy looking ones. They have idle, walking, and speaking animations. The unknown guy is special though, since he has a grayscale texture that gets colored in by ChatGPT, and a name tag so viewers don't get confused. Adding your own character is by far the most complicated part of setting up a live stream, but all you have to do is make sure they have these exact animations, have a navmesh agent and a character controller script with these names matching, and make sure the directions in the code line up with how they're facing. Setting up a new unknown character is too complicated to explain in this video, so just message me on Discord if you need help swapping his mesh out for a custom one. Oh yeah, and the props and environment are just a bunch of extruded shapes I made in Blender in like 5 minutes. The camera system might need some fine-tuning depending on your characters. My method is really stupid since it physically moves them depending on these vectors, but I mean it works well enough for the stream and you can always change it if you don't like it. The subtitles in the scene summary can be turned off like this, but I highly recommend having them on or it'll be way too confusing. Also, you can mess around with the nav mesh however much you want. Infinistream runs on Unity 2021.3.14 F1 and Python 3.9, and if you need help figuring out how any of that stuff works, just let me know on Discord. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. To start up the stream, put all the API keys into config.json and googlecredentials.json, delete all the stuff in new MP3s, start main.py, and press play in Unity. Let me know if you find any crashes, and enjoy your new source of entertainment. Sorry for taking so long to upload a part 2. I graduated engineering school and now I'm trying to start a company, so I've been really busy. Also, most of the code was made in around 5 days before I was very good at programming, so there's some really dumb stuff in there if you look around. But hey, it's stable enough to keep the stream running for weeks without crashing, so who cares, right? Anyway, enjoy your free stuff. Bye!